All right, and to tell us more, we are joined on a phone call with Frederick Goroba Mutebi, who is a political scientist and a veteran journalist, Rwandan Ugandan. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Goroba.
You're welcome.
Very good evening. How is Kampala doing right now?
Oh, well, Kampala is quiet as it usually is. There is heavy deployment of the armed forces all over the city and in the suburbs, but otherwise the city is calm and people have been going about their daily activities quite normally. There hasn't been a lot of cars on the roads or people milling around, but in some places there were people doing their usual business, and it all looked as if there hasn't been an election, in fact.
So we understand, going by the results that were announced earlier today by the National Electoral Commission of Uganda, this is the stiffest competition that Museveni has had since he became the president. Would you say the elections in Uganda were free and fair, judging by your own observations?
First of all, I wouldn't agree that this has been the stiffest competition he has faced. I think during previous elections, he has faced some very stiff competition from Dr. Kiza Besigye, but certainly this has been as stiff as it gets. As for the results, I personally think that those results probably broadly reflect the voting patterns. Now, two things that are not being said. There was a massive abstention from voting by registered voters, and that has puzzled many observers, even as the turnout in Kampala was very high. And some sources suggest the turnout in Buganda region, or Central region, as some people call it, was very, very high. And here, Bobi Wine has defeated President Museveni both at the presidential level but also at the parliamentary level. His party has defeated the National Resistance Movement. As for outside of Central Region and Kampala, I think President Museveni has performed predictably well in Western Uganda. He's done very well in West Nile, as he has previously, but the surprise is Northern Uganda. Actually, Lango, he has captured those regions, as he did Kasese, which some people expected not to vote for him, given the incidents of about 4 years ago when there were massacres there and the arrest of the king and his bodyguards and so on. But he won there too. And also, one has to point out that recent opinion polls have been projecting M7 win pretty much in the high 50s and giving Bobi Wine high 20s or early 30s. And the results seem to be pretty much consistent with those predictions.
We also saw a heavy military deployment at the home of the opposition leader that you just talked about, Robert Kyagulanyi, who is Bobi Wine. What do you make of that? And actually, what also do you make of his 34-plus elections, the votes that he garnered?
I think 34 plus for a presidential candidate who has not been on the political scene for that long, running against veteran politicians in the person of President Museveni, General Muntu, General Tumukunde. I think the 34 plus percent is, for me, quite impressive. And I think it points to Bobi Wine having a fairly good future as a politician in this country. Now, going to the deployment of security forces around his home, yes, certainly. Even television pictures have been showing a fairly exaggerated number of police and military and civilian-clothed security operatives. Now, the question is, why have they been deployed? We don't know. The government claims that this is for his own safety. Bobi Wine says, well, this has been intended to lock him down in his home so that he doesn't come out to meet his supporters or allow his supporters to go and meet him. I don't know which of these two is. Certainly, Bobi Wine has been locked up in his place, but is this a security measure to safeguard his own, to ensure his safety? We don't know. Is this for purposes of intimidating him and continuing to harass him and his supporters? Probably.
Absolutely. Mr. Goloba, the election seems to have left the country divided with different regions voting differently. Moving forward, is there any way to forge unity in what seems to be a divided Uganda?
I'm not sure that Uganda has had an election in which President Museveni has participated that hasn't left the country divided. All previous elections have done precisely the same thing. I personally would argue that this is normal for elections that are so hotly contested that there would be sections of the population that vote one way and other sections that vote the other way. Now, do we want a country that has a homogeneous opinion about the party or leader? Probably not. I think that this is normal. As to what might need to be looked at, I think it's the anger that the treatment of Bobi Wine and his supporters and his campaign teams have received at the hands of the state. This has angered a lot of people and also dismayed many. And I think that the government did somewhat shoot itself in the foot by treating them with such aggression and harassment as they have done. Now, that may need to be looked at, and possibly the government needs to make amends and undertake not to repeat this. But otherwise, the divisions that have been created for me would be healthy, normal divisions that happen during electoral times.
Absolutely. Mr. Frederick Goloba Mutebi, thanks very much for your insight this evening.
You're welcome.
That's it for tonight. Thanks for your company. A gentle and kind reminder to please wear your face mask and do all that is required of you to stop the spread of the pandemic, because no one is safe until we all are
safe.
Otherwise, God bless you. Enjoy the rest of the programming and enjoy your weekend. From Ethan and I,
have a good weekend.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.